Welcome to AfriMind. My name is Afi Akoli, and today we're having a conversation with Ms. Kah Walla. She's a Cameroonian entrepreneur, political leader, and activist who came to the spotlight when she boldly ran for president in Cameroon in 2011 against President Paul Biya. She was harassed and persecuted, and although she lost the election, she remained determined. Today, she continues to work on putting women at the center of business and politics all around the world. Thank you again, and welcome to the conversation. Thank you so much for doing this interview with AfriMind. We're going to start with the first question. How can women be better represented in government in Cameroon?
Thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure to be at AfriMind and to be able to discuss and exchange with you. As concerns getting women involved in governance, I think for me today, the most important work in Africa that we have is getting women, young people, marginalized groups involved in governance. That is our priority number one, contrary to what people think, because, you know, sure, a lot of Africans don't have access to drinking water. So you may think what I want to do is, you know, build a fountain or build a well or, you know, in a community. But the question is, who is going to maintain that water source? Who is going to ensure that people are organized in a way that ensures that that water continues to flow, that it is of good quality, and that everybody has access? You need governance. Whether it's at the local level, at regional levels, at national levels, you need governance. And I think that where Africa is failing today is at governance. So, you know, it's very important to remove the stigma. There's a stigma in Africa with regard to politics. There's a stigma and there's a fear. People are afraid because, you know, our collective history, if you go back to the time of independence, most of the nationalists in our countries were killed. And so this was in the early 60s. So for somebody like me, who's, you know, today close to 50 years old and was born at that time, my parents were like, do everything but politics. And I think a lot of African parents were like that, and many still are like that today. But we have to realize that politics governs everything. Politics governs the economy, politics governs education, politics governs, you know, basic services like water and electricity. So if we don't have the right people in governance, we're going to have poor services for our population. So we must get women involved in politics. We must get young people involved in politics. And for us, at least in my party, that means a few steps. One, informing them. So we do meetings in neighborhoods, we do meetings we meet groups, associations, neighborhood groups, development groups, ethnic groups, just to inform them, so what is politics? Because Africans, I think Cameroonians for sure, and most Africans have become very divorced from politics. So they don't even understand it. So we go out and we inform people, and then we also educate them on how. How do I become a local councillor in my local government? How do I become a parliamentarian and go to parliament? How do I become, you know, a candidate for president? So we inform people and we educate people so that they have an understanding of it, and also we reduce the fear and the barriers. And then we really encourage people. For me, every African should be involved in politics in one way or another. Not everybody is going to be a candidate. Not everybody is even going to be a member of a political party. But you must vote. You must be registered to vote, and you must vote. And you must be engaged at least in making the electoral process freer and fairer. It's people. You know, very often people say, oh, elections are bad in Africa, and oh, we don't vote because it's bad, we don't get involved. It's because, well, that amounts to saying that we know who the people are who make it bad, right?
Yes.
We know who they are. And that system works for them. They're very fine with bad elections because they win every time and they maintain their position. So if we want it to change, ordinary people, average people, must get involved and must at least make sure, if you are making sure in your village, in your neighborhood, that registration is going on properly, voting is going on properly, and votes are being counted properly, then we're going to have a free and fair election. But if you don't get involved and you abandon it to people who amount to highway robbers in some of our countries, then you are comforting them. You are reinforcing that system because you're not asking questions, you're not getting involved, and you're not standing up for your basic right as a citizen of that country. I don't believe in violence. I don't think that violence solves problems. Okay. Togo has had violence, yes. Right? You've had several coups d'etats. Yes. Where are we today? You know, violence, unfortunately, begets violence. Because once you kill somebody who is my brother, then I lose all sense of logic, right? I only have a sense of vengeance. Because even if my brother was wrong and he was doing things that were wrong, he was still my brother. And once you take his life, then you put me in a position where I'm no longer a logical person. I'm only an emotional person. So I think you mentioned Tunisia, which is the most, I think today, the most beautiful example of democracy at work. Mm-hmm. And they are non-violent. Of course, there's, you know, pockets of moments when things go wrong, but this is a non-violent movement. The Tunisian youth went out on the street, and the thing that Africans need to learn is that if you stay at home hoping that somebody is going to do this for you, and you are 100 people on the street, or even 500 people on the street, the government can use violence and bring those demonstrators down. Yeah. But once you are 1,000 on the street, 3,000, 10,000, history tells us no army will shoot on 10,000 people. They just won't. When you are 300, they feel that they can overcome you. They're more powerful than you. But when really the people are out on the street, and this is what we have to learn in Africa. You look at the demonstrations in sub-Saharan Africa, it's a tiny group of people. The rest are sitting at home, hoping that by some miracle, this is going to get done. And you know, you said, what if you do all of this and it doesn't change? Yeah. And I say to you, when you fail an exam, do you give up on school? No. When you have a problem in your job and you get fired, do you give up on working? No. You go home and you figure out what made me fail that time. What can I learn from this? And you come back over and over and over again. This is how we got independence. This is how we stopped apartheid. Imagine if the South Africans had given up, yeah, had said, oh, people were shot today, so we're not going to go back into the streets tomorrow. People were hurt today, so we're going to give up on our fight. Then, you know, where would South Africa be today? And South Africa, to take that example, the first people who rose up against the colonizer in South Africa was 1882. Nelson Mandela was freed in 1994. Yeah, over 102 years of coming back over and over again. Okay. The only way that history tells us that you overcome oppression is to rise up against it over and over and over again. Okay. And we as Africans have to We have to learn this. We have to have the courage to do it, and we have to move into action with regard to this.